Hello everyone! In this video, I'm going to reveal a deeply hidden secret from my past, one I've kept to myself for a long time. My name is Anya Sharma. I'm 29 years old, and I live in California, USA. My life here is relatively peaceful and stable. At 24, I married Michael, and we've been together for 5 years now, building a simple but serene life together. Michael is a thoughtful, kind-hearted man who works in finance, a field that requires him to travel often. Although his work keeps him busy, he always tries to find time to care for our family and be there for me in any way he can. We rarely have major arguments. Our relationship, though not overflowing with passion, is grounded in respect and genuine love. Our little home is nestled in a quiet, safe suburb of Los Angeles, surrounded by green trees and friendly neighbors. I cherish the calm that this neighborhood brings. I work from home, handling straightforward office tasks, which allows me flexibility in my schedule. Michael's frequent travel often leaves me alone at home. At first, his absences left me feeling lonely, but over time, I adapted. We both learned to build our relationship on trust and understanding. Michael is someone I know I can rely on. He's always worked hard to secure a stable future for us. Michael's family lives close by, especially his younger brother, David. David is married to Michael's older sister, Emily, and he's only 27 this year. With his cheerful personality and approachable nature, David has always been a friendly presence at family gatherings and events. He's enthusiastic and dedicated, whether it's with work or small family matters. David and Emily live just a short drive away, so I often see them during family get-togethers or whenever there's a special occasion. What I didn't expect, though, was that David would come to play a significant role in my life in a way I never anticipated. Whenever Michael was away on business, I often found myself alone at home. And on those days, David would stop by to lend a hand. He'd offer to fix things around the house, help tend the garden, or simply bring a sense of companionship to break the solitude. At first, I didn't think much of it. After all, David was family, part of the life I entered when I married Michael. There was always a sense of ease when he was around. We often chatted about simple things, our favorite hobbies, movies we both enjoyed. These casual conversations helped me forget the emptiness I felt whenever Michael was away. Sometimes, I even found that David's presence filled in the gaps, helping me feel less alone in Michael's absence. He had a way of making others feel cared for, with his sense of humor and attentiveness. My marriage to Michael wasn't particularly eventful, but it wasn't filled with conflict either. We lived in a quiet, unspoken peace. However, over time, I noticed an emotional distance growing between us. Michael's frequent absences and long business trips, lasting days or even weeks, made me feel increasingly detached from him. Although he was always thoughtful and dutiful, there was an undeniable sense that something vital was missing between us. A lack of passion and emotional depth. Since getting married, I realized I felt unfulfilled, both emotionally and physically. Michael, though caring, was serious by nature. Rarely did he express affection or intimacy. Over time, this lack of warmth left me feeling isolated, even when he was home. I began to crave the affection, the closeness that I didn't often receive from my husband. When Michael and I were together, intimacy felt more like a duty than a true expression of connection. I often wondered if I was asking too much, or if Michael simply didn't understand the emotional depth I longed for. But as time passed, a deep void began forming within me, one I couldn't seem to fill. On the night of April 15, 2007, Michael was once again away on a business trip, and his sister, Emily, wasn't around either. The house was silent, as it often was when Michael was gone, and I had grown used to the stillness that settled over it in his absence. That evening, my brother-in-law, David, stopped by to help with a few repairs. As usual, David's presence was familiar and expected. He often came by to lend a hand when Michael was away, I had always trusted him, seeing him as a dependable, caring, and light-hearted part of our extended family, but from the moment David walked through the door that night, I sensed something was different, something subtle yet unsettling in his demeanor. His gaze wasn't the same friendly look I was accustomed to. Instead, it carried a weight that made me uncomfortable. We sat together in the living room, chatting about ordinary things. David spoke of work, life with Emily, everyday matters, but there was something in his tone, something unspoken beneath his words. The closeness we usually shared now felt strange, even tense. David's gaze lingered on me, longer and deeper than usual. It was as if he wanted to say something but couldn't bring himself to voice it. Before I could fully grasp what was happening, David stood up and moved closer to me. He walked around the back of my chair and then placed his hand on my shoulder, a gesture that carried an intimacy he had never shown before. My heart raced. I felt a swell of surprise and discomfort rise within me. This wasn't like David. Something was undeniably off. Trying to stay composed, I stood and created some distance between us, not wanting to make a scene, but unable to ignore the shift in the atmosphere. I asked him if he needed anything. He didn't respond right away, just looked at me. His eyes filled with a mix of conflict and restraint. It was clear he was struggling with something, with emotions he couldn't or wouldn't control. The air in the room grew thick with tension. I could feel every shaky breath I took, and a sense of dread began to grow within me. I wasn't sure what would happen next, but it was obvious that David was holding on to something he could no longer hide. He moved closer, slowly, closing the distance between us. I could feel his presence acutely, and it made my heart race with a mixture of unease and fear. The friendly, familiar atmosphere that had once existed between us had vanished, replaced by a strange, intense tension. When David finally spoke, his voice was low, but each word carried a weight that felt terrifying. He confessed that he'd been thinking about me too much, admitting that he knew his feelings were wrong, but that he could no longer keep them bottled up. His words struck me like a physical blow. All the trust, the family connection I had cherished, seemed to shatter in an instant. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. David, my brother-in-law, the man I had trusted implicitly, was suggesting feelings I had never anticipated. A deep sense of fear gripped me. My mind spun in confusion. I wanted to react, to tell him to leave, to stick to my principles, to do the right thing. But he was my brother-in-law, Emily's husband, the man I'd never seen as anything other than family. This situation, it was a tangled web of impropriety, a blatant violation of the trust and familial bonds that held our lives together. A wave of nausea washed over me, the crushing weight of morality threatening to suffocate the forbidden desires that flickered within. Yet, amidst the turmoil, a part of me, a long-dormant ember, was ignited by David's confession. It had been so long since I had felt truly seen, truly desired. Michael, with his unwavering dedication to his work and his emotionally distant nature, had inadvertently created a void in my life, a loneliness that had gnawed at me for far too long. This yearning for affection, for closeness, blurred the lines between right and wrong. David was no longer just my brother-in-law. He was a man who saw me, who wanted me, who awakened a longing I had suppressed for far too long. My mind waged war against my heart. Reason screamed at me to stop, to uphold my vows, to protect the fragile foundation of my marriage. But my emotions, fueled by years of unfulfilled desires, whispered a different story, a seductive tale of forbidden possibilities. Visions danced in my mind, tantalizing glimpses of what might be if I succumbed to temptation. I knew the potential consequences were dire, a catastrophic earthquake that could shatter my marriage, my relationship with Emily, the very fabric of our family. Yet, the allure of the forbidden was intoxicating, a siren song that beckoned me towards the edge of the precipice. I looked at David, his eyes mirroring my own confusion, his unspoken desire a palpable force in the room. The air crackled with tension, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. A part of me yearned to extinguish this dangerous flame, to draw a line in the sand before it was too late, but another part, a rebellious whisper in the depths of my soul, urged me to explore the uncharted territory of forbidden desires. And so, on that fateful night, David and I crossed the Rubicon. We embarked on a treacherous path, a journey into the heart of forbidden love, where the consequences loomed large, but the allure of the unknown was too powerful to resist. Our affair began in secret, a clandestine dance of stolen moments and hidden desires. We met only when Michael and Emily were away. Our encounters brief but intense, each touch a forbidden thrill. David's visits to my home, once casual and helpful, transformed into charged rendezvous, our conversations laced with unspoken longing. The forbidden nature of our relationship fueled its intensity. With every business trip Michael embarked on, I knew David would appear, and I knew I wouldn't have the strength to turn him away. Guilt gnawed at me, a constant companion in this treacherous game, but the excitement of our secret world, the intoxicating feeling of being truly desired, drowned out the whispers of my conscience. With each stolen moment, the emotional connection between us deepened. Was it infatuation, or something more profound? I couldn't be sure, but one thing was certain. I was caught in a web of deceit, my heart torn between the man I had vowed to love and the man who had awakened a passion I never knew existed. Each time I looked into Michael's eyes, those pools of unwavering trust and affection, my heart would clench with guilt. He was oblivious to the betrayal unfolding beneath his own roof, to the stolen moments I shared with his own brother-in-law, in the very home we had built together. The trust he so readily offered, once a source of comfort and security, now felt like a crushing weight, a constant reminder of my transgression. But the burden of guilt extended beyond my husband. Emily, Michael's sister, David's wife, unknowingly shared in the weight of my deception. Every encounter with her, every warm embrace and genuine smile deepened the chasm of shame within me. She treated me like a sister, a confidant, someone she could rely on without reservation. Yet, I harbored a dark secret, a truth that would shatter her world if it ever came to light. The sight of her carefree laughter, her genuine affection, felt like a knife twisting in my heart. The thought of her discovering the truth, of witnessing the implosion of our family, was unbearable. Every shared meal, every family gathering, became a minefield of hidden anxieties and suppressed guilt. Despite the ever-present awareness of the potential consequences, I couldn't seem to break free from the clutches of this forbidden affair. Each time I vowed to end it, to sever the ties that bound me to David, the allure of our secret world proved too strong to resist. The thrill of the forbidden, the intoxicating escape from the monotony of my marriage, overshadowed the whispers of my conscience. The promises I made to myself, those hollow vows of "this is the last time," were mere whispers in the wind, swept away by the tempest of desire. Our relationship became a relentless cycle, a downward spiral of guilt and gratification. The weight of my betrayal, the constant fear of discovery, pressed down on me like a suffocating blanket. Yet, the intoxicating allure of David's touch, the forbidden intimacy we shared, kept me tethered to this destructive path. We both acknowledged the unsustainable nature of our affair, the inevitable crash that awaited us, but neither of us possessed the strength to sever the ties that bound us. With every stolen encounter, we inched closer to the precipice, the thrill of the forbidden outweighing the fear of the fall. Caught in this emotional tug-of-war, I was a prisoner of my own conflicting desires. I yearned for the comfort and stability of my marriage, yet craved the passionate escape that David offered. Each stolen moment was a bittersweet symphony of guilt and ecstasy, a dangerous dance on the edge of a razor. The guilt that gnawed at me whenever I was with David was a constant undercurrent, threatening to pull me under. But the passion, the forbidden thrill of our stolen moments, was a powerful tide that swept away my reservations. We both understood the risks, the potential for catastrophic consequences, yet the very danger of our affair seemed to fuel its intensity. But secrets, like fragile bubbles, are destined to burst, and ours imploded with devastating swiftness. One evening, Emily stumbled upon a series of messages between David and me. The truth, stark and undeniable, hit her like a thunderbolt. Her world, built on trust and familial love, crumbled before her eyes. The shock quickly morphed into a furious storm of accusations and heartbreak. Emily, betrayed by both her husband and the woman she considered a sister, was inconsolable. Her pain reverberated through our family, shattering the foundations of trust and affection we had once held dear. Michael, caught in the crossfire, was speechless. The realization of my betrayal, coupled with the deceit of his own brother, left him reeling. His eyes, usually filled with warmth and gentle humor, were now clouded with a profound sadness, a reflection of the trust that had been irrevocably broken. The confrontation was inevitable, a raw outpouring of grief and anger. Emily, her face stained with tears, demanded answers, explanations, anything to make sense of the wreckage that lay before her. But I was frozen, paralyzed by shame and guilt. Words seemed inadequate, incapable of mending the shattered fragments of our family. David attempted to defend his actions, but his words were hollow echoes in the face of Emily's devastation. Michael, usually so calm and collected, now stood before me, a stranger cloaked in disappointment and disbelief. The bond we had shared, the love we had nurtured, seemed to evaporate into thin air. There was no salvaging the wreckage. The relationship between Michael and me, once a source of comfort and stability, dissolved into a bitter memory. The years we had spent together, the dreams we had shared, were now tainted by betrayal and regret. Emily and David's marriage, once a symbol of love and commitment, also succumbed to the weight of infidelity. Forgiveness seemed an impossible feat, the wounds too deep to heal. Our family, once a haven of warmth and support, was now fractured beyond repair. I was drowning in a sea of guilt, the consequences of my actions crashing down upon me with relentless force. The realization that I had destroyed not only my own marriage, but also the happiness of those I held dear, was a heavy burden to bear. The forbidden fruit of our affair had turned to ashes in my mouth, leaving behind a bitter taste of regret. The emptiness within me was a constant reminder of the love and trust I had squandered. Now, all that remains is the haunting echo of what once was. The memories of stolen moments with David, once a source of forbidden pleasure, now serve as a constant reminder of the devastation I caused. Each time I look in the mirror, I see a stranger, a woman who sacrificed everything for a fleeting moment of passion. The cost of my betrayal was immeasurable, a price I continue to pay with every lonely breath. The family I cherished, the love I held dear, the person I once was, all lost in the wreckage of a forbidden affair.